It's after a very exciting game that we just witnessed. The boys on the road in New Jersey versus Seton Hall with an incredible comeback. Before we get into all of that, though, make sure you like and subscribe to the Field of 68 Media Network. We also are collaborating with the Locker Room app. If you guys don't have that, make sure you download it on all your uh, mobile devices. We'll be doing some pregame, some postgame stuff on there as well. It's a better way for us to get fan interaction, where you can actually uh, kind of be placed on deck. If you have any questions that you have for any host, they could tap you in. You can ask your question, and the host discuss it either with you still online, or if you choose to get offline, the host can discuss whatever your question is. So make sure you get the Locker Room app, and like I said, don't forget to like and subscribe to the Field of 68 Media Network. Today with me, I have a very, very special guest. I've been meaning to get my guy on. He hails from Des Moines, Iowa. Wait, hold on. Let me make sure I get that right. From Waukee, Iowa. He's a former Blue Jay Madness dunk champ. He's a current 6-year pro. He's played in Estonia, Denmark, Cyprus, Romania, Taiwan, Malaysia, and most recently in Mexico. He's the creator of Swagger himself, Mr. Big Swag, Will Artino. Welcome to the pod, Will. Welcome to the J, brother.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I know we have been trying to get it going. It's been
Yeah.
a little bit, but finally we made it work. I'm happy to join you.
It's good to see
Jay,
you, man. Look at that beard.
again at the Jay.
Damn. We're back in the J, man. Who would have thought? Who would have thought we'd be back in here?
Man,
Hey, how you doing though? How you living? I already see people in the chat going, Artino. People are
yes,
really
sir.
excited for you to have to be on here. So I'm glad that we
Uh,
finally figured it out. How you been living, man?
I'm good right now. I'm in Omaha, just working out. I'll head to Uruguay soon. So we're just finishing up visa stuff, and then I'll go out, start training camp again. Then I'll be on the move probably for like a year. I'm gonna go from there to another place. Just keep going.
Yeah, the
Try to
grind
get this
continues. It never
Just try
ends.
and get this year back after sitting out for so long with the pandemic
Right.
thing. So
It's been such a weird year, obviously with COVID and all that stuff. A lot of people don't realize the difficulties of actually being a pro and finding a job somewhere legit that you could actually go, be safe, and work in a
yeah,
safe environment. So I'm happy that you're talking about the Uruguay stuff. I'm happy another landing spot that the career continues, and obviously good luck to you as you move on to that endeavor.
yes,
We
sir.
have to get into this game though. Obviously, what a crazy game it was. The Jays were down and out, 16 points in the second half. Mount a furious comeback down the stretch. Show a lot of moxie, show a lot of experience, show a lot of cojones, as I like to say, to make tough shots in the end, get the stops that they needed, even though they didn't do that for the majority of the night. But they end up climbing or leaving New Jersey, I should say, with a W. A big, big bounce back game
Yeah.
from Mitch Ballack. If you guys heard some of the stuff that I said in the locker room app before the game, I said Coach Mack was going to skip a few games to start, or a few plays to start the game for Mitch Ballack. And lo and behold, the very first play of the game, he gets Mitch going with a simple down screen off of misdirection action. What did you see from Mitch today? Well, obviously, we know how much of an impressive shooter he is. We've been saying that for the longest. What did you see from him tonight that made you
I,
maybe even more impressed in this game?
I mean, that was you kind of took the words out of my mouth. The first thing I was gonna say is Mitch. I mean, what can you say?
Yeah,
I mean, I think the big thing was he was aggressive. I mean, from the start, he was looking for a shot, and when you probably are 40+% career 3-point shooter, you got to shoot. I mean, and he really attacked the basket. I mean, I don't know how many layups he had, at least
yeah.
two. It was like,
I think
I
I
mean, if you
counted
could,
three of them where he
three,
just got back to big and just scooped it up there.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, as a shooter, you're a shooter. You know that if you make shots and you can get to and you get in layups, like that's really going to open up the game for not just him but everybody else. Because he's such an unselfish player, but sometimes he's too unselfish and he's got to attack and then use his playmaking ability after that.
Avery was here a couple of episodes ago. This is episode 8, by the way. You're our eighth guest. Avery was here a couple of episodes ago, and he called it a term that I haven't heard anybody use before. But obviously, it's Avery, so he comes up with his own kind of lingo. He said that players who are defending guys like Mitch, guys like Ethan, guys like Doug, have to hold their hand no matter
Yeah,
where they go. And tonight we saw an example of obviously many times where Seton Hall basically forgot to hold Mitch's hand as soon as he crossed half, and he hit a deep. Once he hit that deep three from the logo in the first half, I was like, "Yep, he's got it rolling tonight." It's such an impressive thing. Like I said, like we are doing this thing with locker room app. I'm putting my Tony Romo hat on. I feel like I kind of called a lot of this tonight. I said that Mitch was going to have a big game. I said that Coach Pack was going to script the first couple of plays for him. Both those things happened. Uh, he was just so impressive. I really can't say enough about the way that he played, his character on the court. It just seemed like even when he missed a couple of shots, you just felt like it was going in for sure. What did
Yeah,
you?
I mean, like that last one that he missed before the game winner, like I didn't even realize, like it looked like a terrible shot from the camera angle, and then when they played the other camera angle, it was smooth, like, and it looked good. I mean, he's just such a pure shooter, and he needs just to keep being more aggressive to keep the offense going. I mean, it was good to see him put up points again after. I mean, I missed the last game. I saw the Butler game, and that was a tough game. I mean, they just really, really needed this one. I mean, we've been in this position a couple times in the Valley at the end of the year where we're trying to fight for good seating, and you drop a couple and then you get down, and it's really deflating, and then you get a comeback win, and that really is just so it's a roller coaster. It's a long season, but I mean that's just they're turning back. I feel like this is a huge win.
I'm just like you. I'm hoping that this game really kind of sets the trend for the future. Like you said, it's a long season, and especially this year where with so many uncertainties,
Right.
there's ups and downs. It's tough to get into a rhythm. It's a really long season, and sometimes you have kind of like a bit of a down part of the year where you lose two games. I remember our teams, we were notorious for in February at some point losing three games in a row. Do you remember those times in the Valley?
Yep. Yep. The game I was thinking of was the one at Evansville that we came back and won.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
and D Rock came into the locker room because it was a scout, and he was going crazy. He was like, I didn't want to say anything during the game, but that was the game we had to win. If we would have lost that, we wouldn't have had a hope at large. Granted, we won the tournament both years. I was in the Valley with you guys, but
Mhm.
I mean, we didn't know that. And the Long Beach State game the year before, in the Bracket Busters, we had that comeback that really set the tone for the rest of our
Right.
season. So I would think
The
that
that was the time
Antoine
that
Young,
Antoine hit that buzzer
yeah,
beater, yeah, and everybody rushed the court.
yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
so I think that come March, and hopefully they make a run. They'll look back, and this will be the catalyst for the season.
100%. Like games like this, you don't realize how much of a momentum boost it is until like you step into the next game, and obviously everyone has an extra bounce in their step. The proverbial monkey has been lifted off their backs, and they're able to just kind of play loose and relax. Obviously, they lost two games in a row before they snapped it. Last game against UConn. Now they've won. They went from losing two in a row to winning two in a row in very two tough teams, two difficult situations. So good on the boys for, obviously sticking through it, being down 16 in the second half and continuing to fight. Another guy that I thought was going to have a big game and again, didn't steer me wrong at all, Marcus Zagrowski. I said in the second half of the UConn game that he looked a lot more comfortable, that he was getting to his spots and his legs seemed to be
Right.
getting stronger underneath him as the game waned on. Same thing kind of happened today, where he just kind of played his game and just kept plucking away at it. Before you know it, he makes a huge three. And then obviously has the assist to Mitch for the go-ahead three that pretty much sealed the game once they got a defensive stop. So, ask you what you thought about Mitch. What did you think about Mitch Zagorowski, or sorry, Marcus
Marcus, yeah,
Zagorowski's
yeah. I
performance
mean,
tonight?
the thing with Marcus, a lot of people don't realize is he's coming off another surgery after last. Before that, he got the surgery. So I mean, as an athlete, it's a mental block to start, and so I mean, he's probably in my eyes not even really in midseason form yet. Like
Right.
he has some good games, he's had some bad games, and he's such a controlled player. He doesn't really force much. He lets the game come to him. And I mean, he just did a great job of controlling the game down the stretch and getting there at the spots in the right spot and just making plays.
Yeah, just to touch on that, he had the meniscus injury against the Seton Hall team to win the share of the Big East regular season championship last year. And then earlier this year against the Seton Hall team again, kind of hyperextended his knee. They called it a hamstring injury as well, which sat him down for two extra games. The Butler game and the Providence game, if I'm not mistaken. And now he's just getting, again, like the second time this year that he's got to get back into the game shape of things. And as you know, as all basketball players know, there's no shape like basketball shape. It doesn't matter how much time
Yep.
Ben tells him to get on the bike and all that stuff. With the boys, he's not going to be in the shape that we're used to seeing him in.
Yeah.
So, again, great bounce back victory from the boys. I'm just so happy, man. I'm so excited to
Yeah.
have you on the pod. The last thing I wanted to do was have you on the pod after a loss
Man.
and being down 16, a little. I really hope that the boys can get it done, and
Yeah.
I'm really glad
Yeah.
that they're able to figure it all out and push through this very pesky, tough Seton Hall team. If you're Coach Mack in the
Right.
locker room after that game, Will, what do you say to the boys?
He walked in there with a hell yeah. and, and I,
Who on the roster do you think that he had dancing tonight?
oh man, I hope he made Mitch dance. I hope there's a video of Mitch dancing.
If that happened, for sure, it's gonna be on the boys' social media
Right.
account, like
Yeah, that's what
shortly.
I'm saying. I mean, Mitch got hit like he's got hit like a Dougie or something. I don't know if they're still Dougie,
They
but
don't Dougie no more. Well,
I
they
mean,
don't Dougie.
I don't know what they do anymore then. But
Right. We're getting too old for that, bro. I'm
I
29,
know,
you're 28. We're getting too old for that.
I know.
Uh, I'm just so happy that the boys won. Let's get into you and your career, where you came from, how you came to be the big swag that you are today. First of all, not a lot of people know this, but you were a baseball player before hopping into the basketball world, well, back in Waukee. So talk to me about your baseball career in high school. Uh, I'm sure you had schools recruiting you on that side of the game.
Yeah,
So talk to
I
me about
mean,
like before basketball, your baseball career, and where you potentially could have gone if baseball was the route that you decided to take.
yeah, I mean, baseball was my whole life up until sophomore summer. Uh, as a freshman, I had thrown for the Iowa Hawkeyes, and they were going to offer me once they were legally allowed to offer me. Um, the White Sox and a few other teams had been calling. The White Sox called my dad when I was still in college, like, "Are you sure he doesn't want to come play baseball?" And it was
No
just,
way.
I mean, yeah, I mean, it was just one of those things where I just enjoyed basketball so much more. As you know, I got really bad ADD, so I couldn't focus unless in baseball all the time. There wasn't enough action for it. And I just kind of had a bad experience my last season. I was in the middle of transferring high schools from Des Moines Christian to Waukee, and it just kind of took the love of the game from me. And at the same time, I just started kind of getting a lot of momentum in basketball. A lot of schools started recruiting me and everything, and uh, I remember the NCAA basketball game was out, and I wanted to be in that really
Oh
bad.
yeah, that was big time. People
And
forget
then,
how big time that game was. I had that same thing too when like obviously coming from Canada, one of the goals was to actually make it to that
right,
video game.
right,
I remember
right.
being like,
And
Blake
then they
Griffin's on the
stopped it our
cover. I'm trying to
year.
be in there.
They stopped it the year we got into college, of course,
Yeah.
because everybody wanted their little $500 off of EA. Like, y'all messed it up for everybody. But yeah, so I mean, baseball was kind of like my life. I was around it. My dad was involved with the Iowa Cubs, and I was down there with them a lot and threw with the guys down there and everything. I mean, it was really cool. But I mean, basketball was great. I mean, I got numerous. I'd call our team back then like we're all pretty much brothers. I mean, it's like a
Yeah.
second family. Seen the world. I mean, places I didn't even know existed
Yep.
until I got there. So I mean, I can't. I think it all worked out basically. Yeah.
Recruit you for baseball. Obviously, you had a knack for basketball. Were you 6'11" already at the time you were a senior in high school? Uh,
Yeah,
with
somewhere around there.
with skill, being able to shoot the mid range, especially well at that time, and obviously as your career has gone on, you've improved as a 3-point shooter. Talk to me about your senior year of high school. Obviously, you commit to the Jays, but what other schools were you thinking about going to? And what was your main reason to becoming a Blue Jay at
Yeah.
the end of it all?
So it came down to Creighton and Iowa, and Iowa just wasn't that good at the time. But like, well, you talk about baseball. So Wisconsin Milwaukee was the first team to recruit me and offer me a scholarship, and they in July had their baseball coach call me to try and get me to play both sports there. So that was really like Iowa and Wisconsin Milwaukee were the only schools for baseball that ended up recruiting me because I stopped playing. But I had a visit set up at Colorado State when I committed when Tim Miles was out there. Um,
Tim
you know,
Miles, a
we
friend of the program, he's got
right.
his own pod on the Field of 68 network too. You guys should check that out.
We both were recruited by Virginia. I remember we talked about that.
Yeah, Coach
Clemson,
Bennett.
yeah. And then there was a lot of schools out west because my high school coach came from Washington State with Coach Bennett. And then he was from Iowa and he just took a year off and coached at my high school. And so it was like a lot of West Coast schools. So, and then the reason I chose Creighton was, I'm from Iowa. So I grew up like it's 2 hours from my house. And it was either, like, and Iowa was also 2 hours, but I didn't really want to go and just be with all the same people I went to high school with and stay in the same state. And granted, I left literally 5 minutes away from my state lines, but I was out of state.
The
But like
Nebraska-Iowa line is literally right in Omaha. But yeah,
we
okay,
could walk to Iowa, but it was just one of those things that I grew up watching them. I remember the Corver days, and they kind of ran the Valley for a while, and I really wanted to play in the NCAA tournament. I felt like that was the school that was going to get me into the NCAA tournament, along with my parents loved the academic side of it. I wasn't so much as interested in academics at the time, but now that it's over and I got my degree from Creighton, if I so choose to use it, it's a great thing to have in the pocket.
Of course. Obviously, you came in, you were asked to redshirt your freshman year behind Kenny Lawson Jr. and Greg Echenike. Obviously, two great guys, two current pros still who have carved out for Kenny, I think it's about 10 years now, and for Greg, it's about 8 years, if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah.
8 or 9 years. Uh, what was that conversation like with the coaches? Obviously, you have this aspiration to play your first year. Everybody wants to be the hot freshman coming in, playing right away and all that stuff. But you're asked to take a step back to sacrifice a year in order to not only get yourself better, but the coaches really believed that that was going to help our team in the future, not clogging up that big spot with the three other guys. So what was it like for you to redshirt that year, knowing that you wanted to step in and compete right away?
I mean, I would think I might have been like a rarity in it because I went into college, we both committed to Altman. And I had numerous talks with Altman and D-Rock that I was probably going to have to redshirt. I was 180 pounds at trying to play the center position. And granted, I was recruited as a power forward / center. So I thought, I was going to be power forward, but what you don't realize in college is you get slid down a spot. Like you were recruited as a point guard, you'd move to shooting guard.
Yeah.
And so I kind of figured it, but and then it was one of those things that Mac told me, we really believe in you, and that's why we are redshirting you. If we don't want to waste your year. So if we weren't redshirting you, it'd be wasting a year, and it would kind of show that we don't believe in you. But by redshirting you, it's they're investing in another year of scholarship. They invested 5 years into me, which at Creighton it's expensive. I mean. So to me, I didn't necessarily look at it as a negative. My redshirt freshman year was, it was a lot of fun. I didn't travel as much. I was a basketball player, but I also that was the only year I felt more so like a normal college student, a little bit, just because I didn't go and I didn't go on the road trips as much. So it was a little different. But I mean, to me, it was long, but it was also definitely needed and worth it.
I obviously witnessed firsthand you going against those two guys, specifically every day in practice. And, they got to sub in for each other, but you were on the scout team and you basically had to play the entire practice against two monsters.
Yeah, it was
What
tight.
did you
I was
learn?
180 pounds and Greg was 300 pounds. That was why I was just I'm just going to become best friends with him.
Right.
And then maybe he'll take it easier on me in practice. He chipped 3 of my teeth and everything. And I mean, granted, we are we're literally brothers-in-laws now. So, it all worked out.
Yeah.
I mean, but I mean, just trying to go against him. I mean, I remember there was numerous practices where they had to pull me off of Greg because it was too easy for him. I mean, that's why I had a redshirt to put on the weight, and they had to put Coach Crawford on to guard him. And so,
Coach Croft, a legend.
yeah, yeah. So I just was one of those things that practices weren't fun. I remember getting kicked out of a couple practices because they didn't think I was competing. I'm like, I'm trying. I just can't. I can't
Yeah,
do much
they're
with this,
hosses, two
man.
big boys down there.
I mean, so, but
Yeah.
I mean, I really do credit a lot to that year to the physicality of my game now, where when I went to Asia and I played against guys that were like 7'6", 300 some pounds, it was like
Mhm.
I've already, granted Greg's 6'9", 6'8", but I was like, I don't believe there's a stronger basketball player than Greg.
Right.
Just I might be wrong, but I mean, look at the guy.
He knows how to position himself. He knows how to maneuver that body to get to perfect position every
Right.
time. And just in case you're in his way, he knows how to lower that shoulder ever so slightly to tip you over. So I
Yeah, I
remember,
remember I'd always take
uh,
charges in him in practice, and he gets so mad.
right. And he like, hey, stop flopping. Hey,
I was
stop
like,
flopping.
you you really think I got a flop? You got 100 pounds on me.
I remember one time we did the Spartan rebounding drill, and I, for whatever
Oh
reason,
man,
got matched up against him one time. You remember how it said, I think it said Blue Jay on the baseline at Old Gym. I
yeah.
went to go try and box him out. He basically just lifted his elbow and threw me from my box out position to the L on the Blue Jay on the baseline, landed on
Well,
my back, and I knew never to do a rotation box out against Greg ever again.
I mean, I think because for the first half of the year, remember he had to sit out, so he was on scout team with me,
Right, yeah,
and
that's right.
I think that was when we did it at the CenturyLink, and he threw Kenny into like the first or second row.
Yeah, so I stood no chance if he was doing that to Kenny too.
Man,
Let's talk about obviously your redshirt freshman year. You come off the bench, but you're an integral part of us not winning the regular season that year, but us winning the Valley tournament. Um, you brought some great energy, some spark in times when we needed it. And you actually did that for most of your career. If we look at, obviously your
yeah,
sophomore year, you were asked to start at the beginning of your junior year until Coach Mack decided that Ethan was a better fit for that starting five. But still, you came off the bench and provided great energy. You had some really big games for us when we were, not playing well or maybe not starting the game off well. Talk to me about what you learned coming off the bench, providing a spark, and how it's helped you in your professional career, obviously, and helping you shape the kind of man that you are today.
yeah. I mean, really, actually, I mean, I credit a lot of it to you. You were always a big energy guy, and it was like, especially like your freshman year, I watched how you went from coming off the bench to starter because of your energy.
Right.
And so, like, for me, when I was like, well, we lost that when you became a starter. So it was my job, I felt like, to kind of come in and bring a spark. Like, I did an interview the other day, and somebody was like, you looked like you talked a lot of junk out there. And I was like, I never talked
You
for
were bar
myself.
you
I
were
was just,
barking. Well, people
I,
don't
but
know you were barking out there.
I was always talking for Doug. I was talking for Greg. I was talking for everybody else because some of those guys, like Doug, didn't say much, and that would just energize us. And it was just one of those things that, like, if I was on the court, I wanted to be the hardest playing guy because I knew that was my best way to stay on the court because we had so many great shooters and scorers that wasn't my role. And, the reason why our teams were successful is because everybody played their role and they never tried to stray from it.
Right. And the majority of people think that Doug didn't talk trash. Believe you me, Doug talked trash. It just was so low key. People didn't really know
Yeah,
it.
every
You
once in
were
a
more
while.
you were more like outwardly running back on defense, especially like if you got a bucket or whatever the case would be. If you got a bucket, you would come back and yell and scream and say, "Let's go," and stuff like that, be right in the other guy's ear. But I mean, there was no everybody was a dog on that team. Like yeah, I
Yeah.
even kind of low key got into it for the most part, my talking trash was just trying to get our crowd as much in a frenzy as I possibly could. But yeah, everybody, especially Grant. Grant was like the leader
Grant.
of the new school when it came to trash talking at CU.
Yeah, but Grant never stopped talking trash. Like if we
Right.
were off the court, it was the same thing. So I mean, it was just always turned on for him.
Speaking of Grant, he dubbed you this beautiful name that we still call you to this day. It really got the fans uh, a new perspective of who you were. The first time he ever called you that was that Blue Jay Madness, the night
Right.
when you won the dunk competition. Thanks to yours truly. I'll take 50% of that
Oh, easy.
performance.
Easy.
But Nick Ball was on the mic and he asked, what was your nickname? Grant stood up, got on the mic, and he said, we call him Big Swag. How did that moniker change your life as a Creighton player? Obviously, walking up and down the mall, going to different classes and stuff like that. All of a sudden, you go from being Will Artino to Big Swag. How did
Yeah, I
that kind
mean,
of change your life for the time being?
it was kind of a gift and a curse. I think the one thing it did is like it gave me, at least like amongst like the fan base, it definitely like kind of edged out like a spot and like because I was just like a little role player.
Mhm.
But we were like a really good team. But like all of a sudden that like jumped me up to like all of a sudden I was like somebody. I guess like it was kind of weird. Like just how like overnight like it kind of just like it wasn't super lot of attention, but it was like way more attention than I'd ever had, and it was just like a little thing that all of a sudden, oh, because I have a nickname now, like things changed. Really, like it was kind of weird, but it is what it is. I mean, there's
Isn't that
could have
beautiful
worse
what something
nicknames.
like that could, isn't that beautiful how something like that could do for you? Like, honestly, like we all had maybe our own like individual nicknames. Obviously, Dougie McBuckets, and then you have Roggy Bombs, and then like everyone kind of had their own little shtick, and then all of a sudden after that one night, your thing is Big Swag, and
Yeah,
it just kind of propels you into like being a conversation piece because not only obviously you backed it up on the court too, people saw that your effort, your energy was there. On some nights you came in and provided, 11, 12 points off the bench, 6, 7 rebounds, and all of a sudden it's not Will Artino doing that, it's Big Swag doing that. So
right.
is was that kind of weird? Like obviously that's at the infancy of social media. Twitter was just starting to get popping. When people like were calling you Big Swag on social media, was that a little weird for you?
I mean, yeah. I mean, you remember at first I really hated it for
Yeah,
some
you
reason, but
rejected
yeah,
it.
yeah. But then once I like kind of just let it, I was like, it's here to stay. I just kind of got to own it, and that's when
Mhm.
it really did become that like on the court type of thing. Like it was like a not Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde type of thing, but like it was just like I can't think of the word, but it's just how I was on the court. It was just like gave me like a more of like a attitude on the court to be kind of trying to be more like a dog, and it was like when I'm just chilling, I'm Will, but like
On the
if I'm
court,
playing or something, I'm it's
Big Swag.
swag, yeah.
You were up on obviously some really successful teams. You were my teammate for so long. Um, Talk to me. I don't want to put you on the spot, but maybe your favorite moment as a Creighton Blue Jay, whether it be like your freshman year all the way up to your senior. Just talk to me about when you think about your time as a player for Coach Mack and for the program for the institution. What jumps out in your mind as that was a time that was really special for me.
I mean that I think the last run through the valley for sure. That whole year was just a
Mhm.
blast. Like we didn't really know that we were going to go to the Big East, but just once we kind of going into the Valley tournament, we knew, but we didn't, and just running through that, beating Wichita on senior night, then beating Wichita in the Valley tournament to win it. And then I was thinking about this because I knew you was going to ask me like my favorite memory. You remember after we won that game, we flew back and we went to the Biodome and we
Uh,
Joe Kelly started playing Chief Keef. We just
oh,
listened to Chief Keef all night. Dude, that might be one of my favorite things. Nobody was on campus that we could celebrate with us. It was just
yeah.
us in the dorm, watching Chief Keef, and we were just dancing around. And I think that was just kind of the epitome of our team. Like we were so close, we
That,
did everything together, and it was just like really like a brotherhood.
that I forgot that like that was everybody's what's it called, right? What's that week called?
Spring break,
Yeah, it was everybody's spring break, and
yeah,
you're right. So people would come to St. Louis to start their spring break. Obviously,
yeah,
we would win. They would go on to wherever they would go, and we would have to go back to campus because we had to get a week ready to get ready for the NCAA tournament. But that is That's how you know there was nobody on campus because that is literally the loudest we've ever
Oh
played
yeah.
music. And as we've yelled in Opus, and no
No,
one
no
came to
argument,
tell
no
us
nothing,
anything, no noise complaints, no
no nothing.
write-ups, no nothing. We used to get write-ups for playing music individually in our rooms,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
now it's
So
just like the doors were open. The other room that was right across the hall, that door was open too. I
yeah, that
remember
was
people coming
our
in and
room.
out of those two rooms, and what a time to be alive, man.
Man,
That's actually a good call. When I asked that, most guys have basketball memories, which obviously you have some too, but it's those kind of stories that like I love doing this podcast for those kind
yeah.
of
I
stories
mean, it was
because it
just like
reminds me
some.
of times like that.
Yeah, it was just like the basketball stuff. Like it was obviously amazing and everything, but like really, it was just like the like after practice in the locker room, listening to music, like the just like doing stuff as a team. Like for me, like some of the best times were the summers when nobody was on campus and it was just us all hanging out, just
Mhm.
going through workouts and just doing whatever we would find something to do because there was nothing to do really. But those times, was times we all became close and became good friends and just hanging out and shooting the you know just
Yeah, yeah, just hang out, just shoot it. Well, I want to ask you what your favorite place to play on the road was, or where it was, your favorite place to play on the road. I'm assuming it was against Drake because you go back home to Des Moines, but if I'm wrong, what was the place that you most like to play on
yeah.
the road?
I mean, in the valley, it was definitely like personal with Drake because they
Mhm.
recruited me, and before Iowa got involved, I
Of
tried to commit
course.
to
I
Drake, and
remember
they didn't,
all the time.
and I tried to commit there, and they wouldn't take me at the time, and so to go back and be like have some of my best games at Drake in front of the coach that didn't want me, it's like, all right, are you sure? Like you still didn't,
Yeah.
and but I mean, but as far as like when we went to the Big East, things have changed just so much. Like every game and every place had like some sort of history to it outside of football, but that's okay.
Shots fired.
I mean, we had like home games there, but
Chicago, there's a lot of Crane alumni
yeah. So I mean, it
who's
was fun. It
moved
was
to
fun to play
Chicago
there.
for jobs and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
yeah,
but
playing at
like
DePaul.
you think about like Butler, like playing at Hinkle
Mhm.
Fieldhouse, playing at uh, I can't Providence. Their place was crazy,
Yeah,
and then
Dunkin' Donuts Arena,
yeah,
right?
and then
Yeah,
getting to play in the Garden. I mean,
of course.
that's everybody's basketball dream to play in the Garden of
Yeah.
Mecca. And I did the math the other day. I got to play there like 7 times or something, which is like a ton. I mean, it was pretty crazy. So I mean, like the Garden would be the best, but that's a neutral site. So go with Drake and Butler.
Right. When I play overseas, obviously sometimes I play like some EuroLeague teams, some Euro Cup teams, and you walk into
Right.
their arena. The local players always like, "Oh, have you ever seen something like this?" I'm like, "Boy, I play at the Garden, boy. You don't
Man,
don't tell me nothing."
our, the CenturyLink was that. What do you mean? That's
Exactly.
our home gym. We had eighteen
Right.
thousand fans. Like
CenturyLink was popping, and
man,
it's certainly it helps with the experience of playing overseas, playing in different arenas and stuff like that. Like
yeah.
nothing is a surprise. You know exactly what to
Uh,
expect when you've been in those big venues. Speaking of playing overseas, obviously, well, like I touched at the top of the podcast, you've been a pro for quite some time now. I want to get your opinion on what's the major difference between college basketball and pro basketball in your opinion? Because I'm sure that answer is different for everyone, but I want to know Big
I
Swag
mean,
specific opinion.
for me, it was like a huge difference in the sense of my role. Like I go from being a team guy and not caring about scoring or stats to all of a sudden I got to produce my stats if I want to keep my job. I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily harder or it's just a lot different. The shot clock is shorter, the games are faster paced. Um, but I mean, it was just really trying to break the mold of being a college role player to becoming the first or second option on the team, depending on the year. And so it took me a little bit. And I mean, we can talk about how, you kind of saved my career when you sent me the agent. We got the same agent. And from there, that was when my career took off. Uh, so, I mean, it was just, that's kind of the biggest thing is just figuring out. ways to score more without shooting so many shots, so many, without being a ball hog, basically.
Right. And shout out to Bo for keeping them checks coming, man. We appreciate you.
Right.
Shout out
Right.
to
Thank
Bo,
you,
man. He's out
Bo.
here grinding all the time.
Helping us
What
feed
has
the
been
family.
what has been your favorite place to play overseas? I know you and I have had many conversations off air. Like Europe is not a spot that you enjoyed as much as some other people have.
Right.
You told me that you really like the Asian market and playing in those different countries. So what has been your favorite place to play at?
Taiwan or Malaysia these last 2 years. They're the same league, so it's nice to travel around. You go to 9 different countries throughout the season, and I really like their lifestyle. It's a little more slow, and you're getting paid every 2 weeks. I'm working as a basketball player, and I signed a contract. You guys signed a contract. Give me my money at the end of the month. Like,
Right.
if you expect me to keep playing, I mean, I would gone 3 months without a check, and it's like at that time I wasn't playing for a lot of money either. So it's like, okay, it's not a lot of money. So I was down. I was a professional basketball player with $20 in my bank account, like in Europe. So I mean, it was just so I just didn't ever find a place in Europe I really liked. I know there's good situations out there, just like there's probably bad situations in Asia, but
Right.
it's just a matter of every professional player finds a different fit, and my fit has just seemed to be in Asia, and so that's kind of where I'm trying to stay. I'll go back there after this next stint in Latin America, and then if I could have it my way, I'd just stay out in Asia.
Yeah. Let's talk about this a little bit because it's kind of interesting. As professional athletes and pro hoopers overseas, we hear about all these horror stories about teams folding, not paying their guys, sending guys home, cutting contracts and all that stuff. And you never want to be in the middle of it. You have found yourself in, I think, a couple of those situations. How crazy is it that like teams, I guess they don't get in trouble enough for being able to do that to players, and year after year, you see that they're hosting teams, they're calling guys in, they're bringing them away from
Right.
their homes, their families, and the next thing you know, uh, they get either cut or they don't get their money on time and they choose to leave, and that's kind of like a stain on the player's resume, but it never is a really big stain on the team's resume. So,
No, the
kind of
team
talk
just
to me about
folds,
your
and
own situation.
like for instance, my team in Romania was a team that was a mid-level team, and they brought me in to make a playoff push, and we ended up getting eighth, and so we were the last playoff team in, and we got swept. And I was supposed to get a playoff bonus, and they're like, we don't want to give you your bonus because we were going to make the playoffs without you." And granted, I was like, all right, then you owe me 3 other checks, so how about you give me the other checks? But I mean, that place was, I took the city bus to practice, and if I was late to practice, they would fine me. But I'm like, I can't control the bus times. Like,
Right.
what are you gonna fine me with the money you don't pay me? Like, all right. So I mean, and there was a time where I had to take a bike through. They gave me a bike when I got off the plane. They're like, "Here's your bike," and then I'm like, "Okay." They're like, "Yeah, you got a bike to lunch. It's 45 minutes away. Oh yeah, it's gonna snow in 2 months. So good luck."
The horror stories of playing
And
overseas that.
and Cyprus, there was cockroaches everywhere in my apartment, and mold growing. They gave
Yeah.
me a car that didn't have power steering. And on the way to the first game, the car broke down at a red light, and I just walked the rest of the way to the arena, handed them the keys, and I'm like, I got to play a game. I don't know what you guys want to do. The car's like 3 blocks down the road. If you want to go figure it out.
Right.
So I mean, that same place they didn't give me all the checks, and I mean, it's just the lower levels of Europe that people don't understand. You're sacrificing a lot to be away from your family and friends, and everybody else is going about their life, and you're stuck
Mhm.
feeling really isolated at times, and it's not easy. That's why I know somebody told me when I became a professional basketball player that the average professional player is a year or 6 months because they go home for Christmas and they don't go back.
Right.
And so I mean, so props to both of us for sticking through and carving out
No, man,
successful
I was
careers.
gonna say props to you because I mean I've known you for so long now, a decade plus, man. We've been
Yeah,
friends for a really, really, really long time. I've seen your growth as a man, as an individual. I know the Will Artino that I met when we were 18
right.
was certainly not gonna I guess kind of continue this route. You're gonna do something different. But you believed in yourself. Obviously, you've grown as a person, you've grown as a player, and me being, having a front row seat at seeing that growth, and I couldn't be happier for you. I'm so proud of the person that you are now, the men that you've become, and obviously you're still pursuing your dreams, you're still getting them checks, like I said, and that's actually you should pat yourself on the back for how much improvement you've done for yourself as a person and as a man.
Yeah, man, I
Uh,
appreciate it. It's yeah. I mean, I
let,
moved to college at 17. I was laughing because I was, once we figured out we were getting on it, I was driving home from workouts today, and I was like, I remember me and Jahenns did not start off on a good foot. I don't remember what I did, but you were so annoyed at me within like the first week, and then fast forward to 10 years later, we're like best friends. So I mean,
right.
we made it work at least. At least you stuck around to let me mature a little bit and grow.
We made it work for sure.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you what you did, but I mean, you're right. I remember like the crazy thing is when I first committed, you were the first person to hit me up on like Facebook Messenger or
Yeah.
something like that. And we were chopping it up before we got to campus and stuff
I mean,
like
that was
that.
because I was the only freshman commit where there was like two JUCO commits and me, and I
Yeah.
was just like, they were like trying to get all these guys, and finally there was a kid that committed with me, and I was just so happy. And then you were the one that told me Altman left. I
Oh
remember
yeah,
that.
that's right. Yeah, because Canisius, the school that I was verbally committed to going to before, they hit me up on a random Saturday morning. Or just like, hey, so if you want to come, we have a scholarship available for you, but you need to tell us by 7 p.m. tonight. And I was like, what? Like I told you guys I'm going to Creighton, and they were like, are you sure? Because your coach just got up and left to go to Oregon. And that's how
Right.
I found out. And then I texted you right away, and then we were just both kind of freaking out, trying
I
to
was
figure
like,
out what's
what?
gonna
And then
happen
like
next.
10
Yeah.
minutes, like I had just woken up like Saturday morning, and then 10 minutes later, the World Herald calls me. And they're like, "How do you feel about Altman leaving?" And I'm like, "I'm gonna have to call you back. I don't even know he
Right.
left."
Exactly. But I think, needless to say, that it worked out obviously for the
Yeah,
both of us. Coach Mac came in and really introduced us to the family and really kind of changed the culture. Um,
yeah,
and now the boys are reaping the benefits of stuff that we laid the groundwork for way back in the day. So
yeah. Creighton, you gotta send us our gearbox. We didn't get a gearbox this year. I know it's COVID and a pandemic, but you guys are Nike Elite now, and I
bro,
mean,
you're in Omaha. Drive down to Champion Center and get what's coming to you, bro.
nah, I can't. They aren't letting people in. I don't think because
No, I know.
they gotta be
Strict
careful. But
protocol. Yeah,
I
strict
need that
protocol.
Elite box.
I have one last question for you, Will. It's becoming one of my favorite questions to ask guys who come on the pod. I asked it to Justin Carter last week. You're about to go to Uruguay. Depending on the season schedule for the different leagues that you're interested in playing in, you might not be back home for a really long while. So, tell me what your first meal is when you touch back down to the States after a long stint overseas. Because Justin Carter described it as doing a 9-month bid and you're coming back home. So this is the last question before I
I
let you
mean,
go. What's going to be your first meal when you come back?
I mean, luckily for me in Asia, I can get anything. Like I've been in
Mhm.
big cities and they're melting pot cities that there are a lot of expats and stuff. So I mean, I can get anything. Like I found Wingstop in Malaysia, for instance. I mean, so
Damn, that's
I'm blessed.
love.
I'm blessed out there. But typically, it's you're traveling 30 hours and you don't want to go sit down. So I'll just drive through Chick-fil-A usually.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
little
That
Chick-fil-A
that's
sauce and
that's
nuggets.
Justin's meal too. That's Justin's meal too. That's crazy.
I think a lot of people. I know one of them was Panda Express one time. I literally got home, drove through Panda Express, went to my friend's house, and I was like, let's go. I've been gone for
Usually,
9 months.
right. Usually my first thing is the poutine because I get back to Canada first. But when I'm
Right.
back in Omaha, for whatever reason, Raising Cane's is one
Oh,
of those
yeah, yeah.
things I have to go like, and then Qdoba. Raising Cane's and Qdoba for me. Like if
Yeah.
one of my first couple
Raising
meals is
Cane's go
that, I'm not
crazy.
complaining at all. And then
Raising
obviously
Cane's.
I gotta get my drover. I gotta get a steakhouse. I gotta get something like that
Yeah,
in.
that's because you play in these villages. You got like whatever the country's
Boy,
dishes,
right
that's what
now
you got to eat. Meat and
I'm in a
potatoes.
village. I'm in a village that's got 2 streets and 3 supermarkets, bro. That's
Yeah,
where
you
I'm at
got
right now.
if you want a
I can't
restaurant,
wait.
you got the house special. It's meat and potatoes, some type of soup.
Right.
I know the Baltic area, so
Of
yeah,
course, you've been playing in
that was the
Estonia and all
roughest
that
place
stuff.
for food for sure.
Yeah.
Me, I'm a picky
Well,
eater.
yeah, you are. I'm glad that you were able to survive out here in these streets.
And I had chicken and Caesar salad for every meal for 6 months.
No.
It was awful.
At least you survived, bro. Thank you so much for coming on the pod, Will. Obviously, like I've been waiting to get you on. Or hopefully we get you on again. I know a couple of people have asked to come back on, so hopefully you're one of those guys too. So Will, I appreciate you so much for coming onto the pod and obviously sharing your story with us, doing a little post-game analysis. How did it feel to be kind of on this side of the media?
I mean, it's different as a player,
Yeah,
but I hope some people like our insight, as players' minds, so we kind of think like them, and hopefully they found whatever we had to say interesting and enjoyed it. I know I enjoyed being on, and hopefully we can make it work again. Maybe we can get me on after the tournament run or something.
let's go.
Maybe it's
Let's
a
get
good
it
luck.
in.
So,
Yeah.
I mean,
All
yeah, it
right.
was great. It's always good seeing you, brother.
Man, you already know. Make sure you guys like and subscribe to the Field of 68 Media Network, and don't forget to download the Locker Room app in order to get a little bit more content for pre and post game from myself. And that's also another way for you guys to interact and actually join into the conversation with your voice and ask questions and have a one-on-one conversation with me as we discuss all things Creighton Blue Jay men's basketball. Well, thank you again, brother. Love you, man. Stay safe,
Love you too, man.
obviously.
Yep.
We'll talk soon and go Jays.
Yes, sir. Go Jays. Roll